Hello everyone and welcome to SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guest we'll take a deep dive into the challenges, topics and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. I'm delighted today to be joined by Russell Smith, Vice President ERP Transformation Technology at AstraZeneca. So welcome, Russ.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Craig. Great to be here.
It's great to have you with us. And in today's episode, which is the latest in our series of interviews with senior leaders in the SAP community, we're going to talk about Russell's career highs, lows, how to get ahead, challenges you may have faced, and hopefully thoughts on the future. But before we get into that, just like to ask you, if I may, what's a skill you would love to learn?
I think I'd quite like to learn paragliding.
Wow. Any particular reason?
It's something that scares me, but at the same time it sounds like a good icebreaker at a party. What did you do last night, Russ? I didn't go to the pub, I went paragliding.
That's pretty cool. And it's me thinking about learning to play the piano. Mind you, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Playing a piano up in paragliding over the Lake District or something.
That would be a Britain's Got Talent golden buzzer moment, I would imagine.
Wouldn't it? A charitable escapade, perhaps. Thanks for that, Russ. And okay, just to start things off, if you may, could you give us a little bit of background on yourself and your career so far, and what led you to work in your industry, and when did SAP become part of your responsibility?
Yeah, no problem, Craig. I've had a bit of a patchwork of a career that's led me to this path, but it's fair to say it started out with a failed entry into the construction industry and a degree in construction. All I learned at university was I don't like construction, so I came out of that a little bit unsure where to go next. I then did a brief stint in the Royal Navy, training as an officer and a pilot at the time. Wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but it sounded quite interesting. So I did that for a few years. Didn't particularly do well as a pilot. I was great at taking off and flying. It was the landing that was a problem, which in the Royal Navy is not the best thing not to be good at. So I actually made a choice once I knew I couldn't be a pilot to leave the Royal Navy, and then I got into consulting. Right? A couple of my friends did consulting, and I was lucky enough, because of my time in the Navy, to be selected for interview, because in those days you had to go to the right university, you had to go to the right right degree, but they let me in the door for the exams, and the rest is history. And then about 15 years in consulting, and then a stint in investment banking, and then the last 10 years where I am now. I'm very lucky to be in AstraZeneca. Always IT, always people. That's the common thread since I left the Navy. In terms of SAP, I worked with them on and off throughout my entire transformation program. I've worked with most ERPs. I would say it was pretty patchy early in my career. Most of my early work was with Oracle, PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, and then just before recently with Workday. But in my role looking after enabling units IT, which was the whole of back office for AstraZeneca, I had quite a lot of in and out with SAP and finance in particular over the last 7 or 8 years. And then really it kicked off properly about 3 years ago with the business case for our transformation program, and I've been full-time with SAP for the last 2 years. 100% of my day job is now SAP and the transformation program. So a bit of a journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So from that perspective, then obviously through those 7 years up until building the business case 3 years ago for the transformation, was that kind of that a linear progression through into that role, or was it something that you thought, you know what, I want to jump into that, I fancy that project, I want to go in 2 feet?
Yeah, I would say it was it was one of those relatively smooth transitions, and then the tap on the shoulder from the boss to say, I've got an opportunity for you, Russ. And it was one of those sort of moments. But in the role that led up to that, I was involved in all sorts of ERP projects. So I owned half of the fence, if you like. In AstraZeneca, you have operations and manufacturing SAP, and then you have finance SAP. So, I was edging very much into the finance SAP space. And then this opportunity came up, and with my sort of background in transformation programs that I've been doing previously for 10, 15 years, it sort of made sense. And as I got into the business case and I realized just how big and hairy and scary this program was going to be, it sort of grabbed me. It grabbed my interest, right? That's the honest answer. And then when that opportunity tap on the shoulder came, it was actually quite an easy decision to make. It took me out of my day job that I'd been doing for quite some time and sort of refocused me, but never looked back on it. It was a moment that I won't forget, that tap.
Oh, fantastic. And so could you give us a bit of insight perhaps into how AstraZeneca's SAP environments evolved over time up until and then we can talk about the transformation going forward? So
not many people realise, but AstraZeneca in a different name was SAP customer number one. We came from ICI at the time, and ICI co-developed with the founders of SAP the very first versions. It's fair to say we've got probably one of the longest histories of SAP in the industry. Over the last 10 years since I've been at AstraZeneca, it's moved quite a lot. So we've gone for an entire IT insourcing, and we created from scratch a capability in SAP that's about 400 people at the moment, actually, looking after all of our relevant systems. And over the last 10 years, we've gone through bits of simplification and bits of consolidation and bits of expansion, because we've had quite a lot of M&A bringing new systems and into the fold. And we've also tried to sort of simplify around our instances and technology. So we're down at 7 instances at the moment, which may seem a lot to many listeners, but when you compare us with some other organisations of our size, we're actually quite lean in terms of the amount of tech we've got. We've got pretty much the whole SAP gambit, with the exception of HR, which is a workday space for us.
Okay, and so now we're kind of looking at now where we are at the future, and I suppose I think it's AstraZeneca's Ambition 2030, and I think it's your Axial program, and that's looking to deliver, I think, a new digital backbone to AstraZeneca.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ambition 2030 is our company strategy that is fully available in the markets, and effectively it's moving us to an $80 billion revenue company. So to give you an idea, we're $45 billion at present, roughly. 20 new medicines, which in pharma is unheard of in that short time scale. And we've also got some ambitious sustainability goals in the middle of all of this as well, around carbon neutrality. What we as an organisation realised, and our CEO said it very, very, very clearly, is what got us here won't get us there. It was recognised that for us to take that next big leap to that $80 billion company, we had to fundamentally change the way that we do things. And what we did is we created a number of priorities across the organisation that moved us either forwards in science and innovation to support the new medicines, in terms of growth as a company as well to support the revenue, and then finally in how we work and deal with sustainability. And Axial sits across all three of those, but it's very much in that how we work. How do we create an agile organisation? And for us to do that, we needed that digital backbone that completely connected our organisation from end to end, went well beyond finance, went well beyond manufacturing, and fundamentally looked at how we operated as a company. And that was really how it all sort of came about, if you like. It was a real pivotal moment because the organisation had looked at moving to S4HANA in the past, but it was an IT-led discussion, and it was all about end of life, right? And you do not get investment on this scale with end of life being your selling point. And we actually flipped it with 2030. It allowed us to put a business lens on what we were trying to do with the transformation and go forward and say, well, if we want to achieve this without scaling the organization, we have to think differently, we have to act differently. And the Axial program was then born as that business transformation, and the S4 element was obviously a key foundation, but it was very much in the background, very much in the background.
Oh, fantastic. And so in the pharmaceutical industry itself, do you feel, are there any unique challenges working in the industry when it comes to SAP implementations?
Definitely. So when I came out of consulting and financial services, I always thought financial services were quite regulated. Pharma life sciences takes it to a different level, but you sort of understand why. If you're putting medicines in your body, you want to feel safe, right? So the regulations that you see in pharma are a different level in terms of understanding what you need to do. And pretty much everyone knows about SOX and what you need to do there, but not a lot of people understand GXP or good practice and how that actually relates to ensuring that there is patient safety at the heart of everything we do, whether that's in the research, the manufacturing, the packaging, the delivery, etc., etc. So that's the fundamental difference. It's that level of additional oversight. What that means quite a lot is the systems we use, whether GXP, have to be fully validated, which means quite often we can't use the latest releases of software, which is available generally. So we have to do things slightly different. And also there are some very specific products for life sciences that deal with that as well. So I would say if you took any big transformation, probably about 70% of it is pretty common and core. And then you've got that 30% GXP life sciences edge that we have to apply as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. So when you're looking for assistance, I suppose perhaps a shoulder to cry on from time to time, and assistance from others who can help you and give you advice, etc. Where do you go to for assistance on SAP related matters?
I have built up a network, if you like, of peers that I go to quite often, and we speak very openly about some of the topics that were going on. There's quite a few other organisations on this journey, and I try to make sure I speak to my peers on a regular basis. I probably speak to one of them every 1 or 2 weeks. I probably get 2 in a month, and I work my way through not just pharma and beyond. That's one route. Second route, plug to the user group. I use the people in the user group. The networking that I have there, they help me quite a lot, give me different perspectives on how things are done at different organisations, and that's very helpful because when you're in a big organisation like myself, you get into a rhythm of thinking there's only one way of doing it, and it's generally quite slow, quite laborious. But I can have a chat with a different organisation that's approached it completely differently, and then I can sort of challenge my own thinking. That's probably my second go-to route, but the commonality in both those routes is networks. Mm-hmm. Then I get down to SAP themselves. We're a big user of Max Attention just because of the size of our program. That works sometimes. I'd like to get more direction from them, if I'm honest, rather than options. And then we've got our partners on the program, whether that's the big SIs that we've got, or the fact that somewhere in our organisation, pretty much all of the big SIs are there, and they're all willing to give advice, even if they aren't the main program SI, if that makes sense as well. So that's the sort of levels that I go down, and then to each of the niche vendors as well. But I sort of tier it. I always start with the networks because you get that completely unambiguous, unbiased view of what's really working and what isn't. And I learn so much from those networks.
Oh, thank you for that.
We know our community, but we don't know yours yet. Why not share the benefits of your UKI Sub membership with those who don't know about us? The UKI Sub referral scheme rewards you for helping to grow and develop our community. You can check out the link in the description to find out more about how you can get involved. Terms and conditions apply. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
And so just focusing a little, I suppose, now you mentioned there SAP, but on software vendors and IT partners, how would you rate the level of support provided by them?
Yeah, it depends on how you define the word support, but if we mean it in the softer sense around help when we need it, it's still a little transactional, I feel, with most of the vendors. I don't, and this is an ERP thing in general, I'm not just referring to SAP here. It's still a little too transactional, and it's really whoever your account team is that makes a difference. I think if you have a good account team, you get 200%. If you have a terrible account team, you get 50%, and the 100% in the middle is the machine that never changes, right? That's the SLA-driven type group, ticket tennis, as you sometimes call it when you're looking for support and help. That, I think, is really important. With SAP in general, because they're such a large organization, I do sometimes feel that if you don't have a good account team, they don't even know how to navigate within SAP themselves. So it won't surprise many people that I can ask the same question and sometimes get two different answers from within SAP. But I also got that within Oracle. So, it's a general big vendor type thing, I feel. I also think the biggest area for improvement is actually something I referred to early on, which is give an opinion. Yeah, don't give me options. Right, that doesn't help. Google gives me options, right? ChatGPT can give me options. Give me what your opinion is, and if I choose to ignore it, so be it. But at least give me some sort of direction. And again, that's just a general software vendor thing. I see that a lot. I feel giving opinions sometimes from our software vendors is viewed as too risky, which is unfortunate in my opinion. So.
It is, and that for me, I think what you've just said there is very interesting. No matter what we do with systems, no matter what we do with AI bots in the future, or this, that, and the other, what I noted down here through what you were saying is it's the people. We still go back to the people, and what you said there about give me an opinion, that is the strength of relationship and the trust in that relationship, that, okay, if somebody's going to give you their opinion, these are my thoughts, this is what I think you should do. I suppose they need that trust with you and that trust with their organisation, that they feel, okay, I'm not going to get sued, I'm not going to get, hauled over the coals on this. This is me genuinely trying to help someone.
Yeah, 100%. Relationships, networks, humans, etc. I was actually talking at a recent leadership conference internally last week, and I was presenting some elements on the SAP roadmap and how we're going to leverage all the wonderful things and buzzwords like agentic AI, etc., etc. And the point I continue to make is, at this point, none of that technology is mature enough to take the human out the loop. And therefore, we need to make sure that as humans, we continue to collaborate and make the decisions with the information that we have. And we're getting more information at a speed than we've ever had before. So actually, that makes it harder to process, as a human. You've got hundreds of data points to consider versus maybe 5. But if you're talking with a peer and you're both in a similar situation, you can cut through that to the key issue and the key component quite early, in my opinion. And that's where the value of people that have been there and done it before, or have a different perspective, are important as well. So I try and surround myself in my career by people that are as unlike me as possible. And that's not because I necessarily don't like myself, which is the glib answer, but those different views are really, really important to try and pull in. And I'm clever enough to know I'm not clever enough to know all the answers. And that's where I think the power of people comes in. And where user groups are so important. Like I say, that breadth of experience is gold dust, absolute gold dust.
Oh, fantastic. And so how have your previous roles influenced your career when working on SAP, and Have there been any key learnings you've applied in the world of SAP that you've learned from previous roles?
I mean, like I said, a lot of my early ERP experience was with different vendors, and I started off in JD Edwards a long time ago. Then I went into PeopleSoft and then a bit of Oracle and Confusion and all those wonderful things that were released at the time, and then SAP as well. But I think what I've learned is what a good relationship is with a vendor, right? And I do call SAP a partner. I don't call them a vendor. That transactional sort of language doesn't really help as you're in the trenches, because you really find out the true nature of a relationship with your team, if you like, within SAP or anywhere else, is when it gets really tough. It's great to be really open and pally when all things are good, but when things are tough and people go into bat for each other and it doesn't become a blame game, that's the real power. And I've sort of taken that from my different relationships with those different vendors. Workday, for example, the way that they interact with their customers is very different to, say, Oracle, right? And so you have to sort of adjust your approach with either of them. So what I try and bring to the SAP knowledge is the best bits of all those previous relationships, so that I can sort of build that partnership feeling with not just the account team, but beyond the account team as well, and that they believe that we truly are trying to do the right thing, not just for AstraZeneca and patients, but also give a little bit back to SAP as well, that can improve their products, improve how they deal with their relevant customers in our industry, and or sometimes give them hard and honest feedback. That it's not lost on me that I'm in a privileged position that, because of the size of the company and the scale of the program, I get access to materials, resources, and people that maybe many of the listeners on this call don't get to. So, I take that quite personally, that I want to try and do the right thing for the wider community with that discussion with them and give them that honest feedback. The other thing I've learned, which is not just an SAP thing, is technology is easy. People are difficult. Digital versus analog humans, right? That's one thing that I've really, in my previous roles, sort of brought that to bear with the SAP discussion. The transformation program we're on is very clearly a business transformation program. We don't for 1 second say it's technology. Because technology is important, but it's in the background, right? It shouldn't be the driver for what we're trying to achieve.
No, fantastic. And if I may go back to your military career, if you like, and your time in the Royal Navy, did some of the skills that you picked up there perhaps influence how you work today? I suppose not just landing a project safely, to use what you said earlier.
Yeah. It was a defining moment for me as a person, being in the armed forces. I would highly recommend it as something that is a character building experience. Now, what did I learn? Absolute clarity of communication. Remove ambiguity from the table, and discipline and structure. I went into the Royal Navy straight from university. I didn't even know how to iron my socks. That's an honest situation. I came out a much more structured individual with some absolute life skills that I still use to this day.
Fantastic. And what do you feel organisations should do when it comes to SAP projects to ensure that they deliver them successfully? What are the key elements?
Start with the people aspect and the change. That is absolutely essential. Ask yourself the question, why are you doing this? And if it isn't linked to business value, business outcomes, and your company strategy, you should sort of ask yourself, well, why? The second thing I would say is get on top of your data before you even start. That's the biggest barrier to success. With AI everyone says it's built on data, but nobody pays attention to the data till it's too late. Yeah. It's very easy to say the AI doesn't work and it's hallucinating, but if it's only working off a set of incorrect or corrupted data, then it's like giving your child a French textbook and then putting them into a German exam and wondering why they couldn't do it. Right, you've taught them wrong. So for me, those are the two key things that I think are vital. And if you do those early, then you're pretty well set up, in my opinion. Leave the tech to last. That's the easy bit.
Yeah. Thank you. Again, right back at the front there, people. It's a huge aspect of life in every facet of life. And what would your advice be to people looking to perhaps work in the SAP sector?
It would depend where they come in from, because the sector now is so big, right? There's so many roles that are in there, from prompt engineers that will be needed, BTP, deep technical skills, the ability to run collaboration networks with your business areas. It's huge, Craig. I don't think there's a straightforward answer. I would go with a standard answer that I would give to anyone when considering what do they want to do in their career and where do they want to work is, first of all, be curious, because there's so much you can go at in SAP, right? There's just so much that you can go at, and take the time to look at the bits that really interest you and float your boat. That's my view of it. And the aspect of the way the technology is going at the moment means that you need less and less technical skills as you go forward. So I would encourage people to look at areas of business value or something similar that they were genuinely interested in, and go into that area. It could be, I'm interested in logistics. So you've got transportation management solutions, you've got business networks, you've got track and trace. There's loads you can go at. You could be really interested in finance, and you can go in and look at how you do parallel accounting, how you do advanced financial close. There's lots of opportunities to go at. Just find the thing that's interesting to you and then hone in on that. But don't go too technical. That would be my advice, because that narrows your ability to jump between parts of the sector. Because as you get older, you change your mind on what you like. That's just a fact, right?
Yeah, very much so. Thank you, Russ. Appreciate that. And as we come to a close, if you looked into your crystal ball, what do you think will be the biggest change we'll see in the world of business or IT in the next 5 years?
I would say fundamental shifts in the role of IT will happen in the next 2 to 5 years. I think I can see a world where IT sort of splits into a organisation that's very focused on traditional old school infrastructure, those sort of things. And then I can see an offshoot that's more aligned to the business, or even in the business, that is doing business technology. My group in the program, I specifically call them the technology group. I don't call them IT, because it's a different skill set. It's the ability to leverage the most out of technology. And, it's very easy for me to say AI, because no one's not going to say AI, right? But I think it's more than that. I think we are going to see the sort of rebirth of technology groups in business areas. I see pure IT becoming more transactional, old school infrastructure, cloud management, vendor management type stuff. And I see much more business focused, business driven capabilities in the technology sector. I think the role of the CIO is already blurred. You could swap a CIO for a CTO, for a CDO, for a CDIO. It depends on the organization you're in. But I think the classical CIO role will fundamentally shift in the coming years. And that might be scary for people, but the reality is I don't think people are going to lose their jobs. They're just going to do things differently with a different focus. I think there'll be much more technology leadership in business functions as we move forward. That's how I see things moving.
Russ, thank you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us today and for supplying some fantastic insights into you, your career, and advice to others out there. Thank you so much.
No problem, Craig. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, fantastic. And thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. Please make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and be curious.